You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Boardwalk Empire After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Boardwalk Empire After Show.
Hello everyone, and welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV Boardwalk Empire Edition, Season 4, Episode 10, entitled White Horse Pike. I'm your host, Keven Undergaro, and we are at full power. We're fully staffed. Thank goodness, because this is one tough show to host. Who's sitting next to me?
I'm Sara Stretton, if that's what you're talking about.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And who's at the other side of the table?
Oh, that'd be Eboni Williams. Hi, guys.
Hey.
And Bethany Jaber.
Holla.
What's up?
Okay.
I'm so excited to have everyone
Yeah,
here
this is
today,
nice.
guys.
And everybody listening deserves all of us, so we're good.
And do you think that we can have this for the next two?
Yes, I'm committed to the
Please.
rest of the season.
Everyone else? No? Yes?
Okay, I
On
don't
the
know.
fence?
This is the problem. If anything does happen to Chalky next episode, I don't think I can make the finale.
Oh, gosh.
All right, we're going to I have
I
some
can-
strong opinions.
As long as it doesn't mess with Thanksgiving travel, then I'm good.
Oh.
Yeah, because Turkey Day, it's nice to get home a couple days early, right? No?
I'm staying in town.
I don't even
I'm
know when
from here.
Thanksgiving is because it. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like to get there early.
Are you guys going home?
I'm not going. I don't go. I haven't gone home since I was an undergrad.
I think biggest travel day of the year, right?
Yeah.
Isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
That's why I like to leave a few days early.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, understood. Let's start out with Chicago. Okay, and we see Al Capone. All along, Torrio, he's been okay with Al.
Well, he
Al's
hasn't been okay. He just hasn't really been there, I feel like. Like, he's been kind of...
Okay, but he hasn't been as resistant as we saw tonight. He's just like, you're pushing too far, kid. That's what I saw tonight that I haven't seen. I've seen him say, hey, we got to slow down. We got to back off a little bit. He's really upset about the way Al's taking over.
Yeah. Capone's way too big for his britches, and Torrio, not ever directly saying it. In fact, he almost goes in the opposite direction. Oh, I like that you're thinking ahead, but we all can see through that. And it's kind of, can Capone just not feel it? I think it's because he's high. I think the coke, he's just all, or whatever he's snorting, it's just
I love
messing
that
with
the
him.
mannerism of that is really affecting him constantly. Like, anytime he's stressed or going out, you still get the sniffs and
The sniffs and the,
even if there's
yeah.
no actual drugs in the scene.
yes, you're
He's
constantly
still
visually
like,
reminded.
It's now just a thing that he's like, anytime I feel this change or the stress, I'm going to inhale. I love that as like an actor moment for him.
Yeah. I just think it's affecting him because I think old Capone 2 seasons ago would have been sensitive to those changes and kind of reading those nuanced undertones from Torrio. His senses are just have left him.
It's funny. We know what I've known of Capone is that he drank a lot and that he had sex with everybody, and he he eventually gets syphilis, and that scrambles his brain, and he dies. I think it was in the 40s, and he's a shell of himself. But I didn't know so much about the drugs, and I don't know. I'm gonna trust that this is more honest. This portrayal of him, and I'm gonna do a little bit more research on this. And does he ever pull out of this tailspin, or does he just get more power, more women, more booze, more drugs, and then
More
eventually
enemies.
more enemies, and in his rise to power, and then it all implodes together. But it's interesting because I was not taught that he was so deeply into drugs like we're seeing now.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like the fact, I really like the direction they're taking with how Van Alden Jordan Mueller has really come into this new circle. I mean, we talked about it kind of while we were watching the episode. for instance, they were sitting at the table and it's the three of them, and you get the camera
Yeah, it's great.
pan through the two of them, and how they're kind of intertwining him, and how he's had.
Oh, you're talking about that shot at the table. It was a
Yes.
round
Yeah.
table, and it
Yeah.
rotated around. Yeah, it was amazing.
Bringing that up, and then also talking about how Van Alden, as a character of Van Alden Mueller, always has these circles, these things that happen over and over again in slightly different ways. So in this episode, we got to see him save
Yeah.
Al, and we've seen him say originally he had saved Al's brother, and that's how it got him further invested in their gang, and now he saved Al, so I think he's going to get even further. But just seeing then the opposite sides also, because we know that with his brother, that ended up being his fault, and that ended up being the one who realized and turned on him and could understand him more. So I'm wondering and fearing for Van Alden now.
If he's going to
position.
regret having saved him originally.
Exactly. Like it's gonna come. I think anytime he saves them, it comes back to haunt him a little bit.
It's actually, the history on it is, because I was Googling a little bit earlier, is accurate. The bodyguard does save him in that moment. But what happened was, I guess, from reading, is that the hotel got shot up, but nothing, they noticed that like nothing had broken. And so they thought that was weird, and so Capone runs out and is to see who did it, at which point that they realize that was a decoy, and the bodyguard rescues him and saves him. But so that is actually, I mean,
They
we
do
don't know
a great
if it's
job of tying in the fictional characters with historical moments.
Yeah.
I'll get more to that. Mike August pointed out another one of those later. So, but
Cool.
we'll save all of Mike August's wonderful catches for a little bit later.
But we know Van Alden is now totally further endeared himself to
He's
Capone.
got the credibility now.
And
yeah.
we know Capone, listen, this isn't a spoiler. You have to be living on Mars to not know that Capone becomes the biggest crime figure in the United States and becomes the Caesar of the crime world. And the fact that Van Alden, you know, it seems like he's going to be his right-hand man, which means he's going to be in an interesting position at some point. So you're right. It is going to lead to more violence, more death. But
necessary for to get Van Alden even to get that close, I think, because it's like Capone's almost been side-eyeing him since he arrived. Who are you really? He's learning more about him, and now this is, you know, like you guys are saying, second time he saved somebody close to, well, now Capone himself.
Right.
He's credible now.
so it's going to be how his life is going to change now, and how that his little fixer-upper house or his little new house is going to expand.
Yeah, Sears is going to be all in it now.
Yeah, seriously. It's funny because we're led to believe Torrio was behind it, especially the way it ends. Hey, good thing Torrio wasn't
left
here.
when he did. Yeah.
You know, I think it makes us believe that Torrio was behind this shooting, but I think it was O'Bannon. What do you guys think?
I thought it was O'Banion at first when we were watching it. That was my first prediction, but then the line threw me. So now I'm like, oh, maybe it is Torrio. He was really pissed, guys. I mean, like, he wasn't feeling it. I think he said it, like, oh, how generous of you to, you know, not cut me out of my own operation. I think it just kind of personally offended him, too. And I think when you bite the hand that feeds you for so long, it's no wrath like that.
Bethany, why are you looking like that?
What?
You don't think it's...
I don't want to throw any spoiler alerts, so I'm just trying to be quiet.
I'm on her page.
That's you know what I mean,
All right.
because like
Sit
if
Fair enough.
so I'm just mum's the word here.
I'm gonna say from the episode, they really, even before the line, I felt like I was like, they're pointing it at Torrio. They are. They put him right before he walked out, and he wasn't even concerned. He was more of like, oh, I'll listen to this gag, this charade, or whatever tomorrow. So they point the finger at him.
But he didn't do. I always call it like a wink to the camera. Torrio didn't do anything for us to indicate. He was very leisure, like, you guys drink and have fun. It wasn't like, you kids have fun and I'll just leave. Them like deviously looking at the camera. I call, there was no signal.
That's true, but you've mentioned it before that they don't do that in this show.
You
they
sound
have a
like-
skill for.
Okay, when haven't they? I've always
Knox.
that Knox didn't wink to the camera.
Knox,
but then eventually
it was Knox with Eddie, correct? That was the main conversation I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah, I felt like that was Eddie's goodbye. Yeah.
But then he did. I feel like later we get it from him.
I mean, I think that with Knox and his winking and his like whether he gives away which side he's actually on, we've seen him so much this season in these situations where he's either interrogating someone or lying to someone.
He's a whole other. Well, believe me, there's a lot of Knox in this subject.
Yes, and he's an example. But he's an example how they all the time they don't give you that wink. They don't give you that hint that this is a joke or this is a lie. They just let it play out and let you believe what you want to believe.
Okay, so that's so. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. You guys now have my curiosity, but it's because you don't give out the spoiler because we know the fans don't like that.
Yeah, and the great thing about this show is the dance between the fiction and the nonfiction. Yeah. They're always going back and forth and misleading us in different ways, so we really don't know.
I still think they stick to historically. They don't mess around.
Yeah.
They stay. It's just how they take us there is where they play. And by the way,
and
I
how
love
they bring
that.
in the fictitious
characters. Yeah.
Yes,
right.
into the real stories.
And I wanted to keep going this way. So let's talk about Rothstein and Margaret. I thought Margaret looked beautiful. It was nice to see her back. I'm a Margaret fan.
Oh.
And as just an actress, I like her. But it's interesting that Rothstein, of course, ever the opportunist.
What's his name in this one?
Redwood or something. Redland, I think they call him.
Something. I think there's something
Well,
like Redstone.
Redstone.
Oh, Redstone.
Redstone.
Oh, okay.
Same thing. Landstone.
Bloody Stone. Who knows?
You wonder if it's an inside jab at Sumner Redstone, who's almost 90. It's just interesting. I don't know if they're having fun.
I don't know.
But anyway, for those of you who don't know, it's Sumner Redstone. I don't know. He probably owns maybe 30-40% of our industry, the show business. He owns Viacom.
Yeah.
And
Paramount.
Yeah.
GM.
So I don't know.
Right?
You never know if it's a little slight there, but they always say that the stock market is in fact just legal gambling. You hear that from everybody, and so it makes sense that Rothstein would be, so dialed in.
To be clear, though, like I think I hear that argument of the stock market itself being illegal, but insider trading specifically a little more illegal than the rest.
Well, no, wait a second. No, but that's not inside trading. Is more illegal, but it's not necessarily more gambling. I think it's like comparing a card game to a crooked card game.
Right.
So
Agreed.
This is what this I think is.
Agreed.
And of course if he's going to find if anyone's going to find an angle, it's Rothstein.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't ask for more in her deal.
No, because then it becomes greedy and it becomes about her. She's got to keep it. That's Margaret from season 1. Her moral compass has to guide her, impure action. And so at the end of the day, what she asked for is exclusively for the children, and she keeps it about them. So she can sleep at night.
He even mentions how his arrangement with dealing with women for the first time. I thought that was really great, and
Hilarious.
It dealt with the fact that she did bring to the table a very acceptable, I guess, offer or exchange or proposition. He didn't have to deal with wagering back and forth. He didn't
ego
really a threat of violence. All these things were eliminated. The fact that she went, this is what I want, or more of this is what I need.
Yeah.
And
all over a wholesome glass of milk. I mean,
it's a scrumptious looking cake, might I add. AR was just killing that cake.
Quite the treat.
Quite the treat. Yeah. Can I just say, and I said this when we were watching this, he's like the most unsexy, unappealing man of the entire show.
You know what I love
it's
about
all
it?
the milk, making him milky white.
Maybe.
You know what I love about him is I feel like that guy is probably married and just solid with his wife, and he's not into it. And I think that's cool. But
I think that's
but
good
that's why
too,
those guys are so focused and so good.
I bet if you met him in person, he would be super sexy.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. But in that role, and I think it's by design. To Kevin's point, that he's supposed to be almost asexual in that way.
Yeah.
And so he plays it well.
And that's why he's so successful.
Yeah, as we see.
But that's you guys. That's why I could never do this show alone. That's a great point about doing business with a woman, as opposed to a man with his whatever his package size
and an ego,
and his ego and his testosterone and all that stuff. And you're right. It's just
she has
about
a clear objective. It's based in something other than herself. Yeah. She can feel good about it. He gets it done.
Well, that's like if like the saying that I don't know what the saying is exactly, but if like men could have babies, there wouldn't be war.
Mm.
You know, I mean, she's out to like protect her children and do that, and her objectives are very clear and simple.
Yeah, and it's classic Margaret. We know that from the series. She will do anything for those kids. So you know, she's being true to that.
But so we know what Margaret's like, but we also know what AR's like. And I think that this arrangement isn't going to just stick between him and Margaret. I think it is going to bring up with Nucky, because this is what we've seen.
Well,
men do want more. Men want to use these arrangements as tools. And when he's in such a sticky situation and has all these problems and is going to Nucky to have people killed for money,
Sell insurance
it's going to be
policies,
pretty easy to be like, oh,
Well,
by the way, I'm
So
taking
broke.
care of
It
your
was
wife.
like the brokest move.
But he's like,
But
but
isn't-
he's going to
but
have a
isn't
car
the
that he's
realty-
taking care of his wife.
But
Like,
isn't
that
the
is it.
realty group tied to Tampa? Didn't we see?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
if
we
of
did.
course it's going to cross wires,
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're
At
right,
some
Kevin.
point.
Yeah.
and it'll be interesting to see.
But then in this situation, AR has a, I guess, leg up on Nucky. He's taking care
Absolutely.
of something that Nucky loves or wanted to take care of and couldn't.
I think that I don't know. AR definitely takes care of AR,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like if he could give somebody a break, it'd be Nucky, because Nucky's kind of giving him a break.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see if Margaret doesn't, you know, get a little deeper in, maybe
Mhm.
make a little more money. You know, now it's like the kids get to live in a better place, but we do need groceries. We do need, and who knows if this boss she works for seems like a real d-bag.
Mm-hmm.
He's horrible, and so who knows if she's even gonna be able to keep this job.
Mhm.
You know?
I noticed something about Margaret too this episode, guys. A moment of pride when she spoke about the reason she's accepting these things from AR but won't accept from Nucky. She said, "I earned it," and it brought me back to Margaret of season 1 and 2, where she never looked at herself as some sleazy whore. She felt like she was doing what was necessary for her
Right.
family, and it's a point of pride for her. So that, you know,
I like her.
I'm on the fence. It made me like her again, Kevin.
That's
Just
why I like
for a
her.
minute.
That's why I like
For
her,
a
you
minute,
know?
yeah.
Run over Bethany.
But I like
That's the question.
Okay, I don't
But I
feel
like her
abandoned.
journey from Irish immigrant worker,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to, you know, working at the dress shop, all the way up to what.
She's ambitious. She's ambitious.
And smart though, and you know, and loyal, and you know, it's just too bad it didn't work out with those two.
Yeah.
I always liked them together.
I did too.
What do you think, Bethany? Do you like
I
them
don't-
together?
I mean, I just, you know, I think Margaret's flaw is that she always just wants a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
It just creeps in there because
Definitely.
every character has a flaw, and I think that's hers. And so it's just, you know, she'll get the apartment, and then let's see what's next on the agenda.
Yeah.
And then the other
She'll want private school and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Let's talk about Knox and Eli in their first meeting. We see Eli unkempt, disheveled,
Slouching,
weak.
sweating.
That's right,
Ugh.
slouching in the booth as Knox is spelling, you know, grilling him for more information.
Was he drunk?
I don't think he was. Well,
I don't know. I mean, he was just so disheveled and falling apart and the sweat. I was like, are you wasted right now? What is happening? But maybe not. Maybe he's giving off that appearance. I don't
I
know.
just think he is he's rattled.
Yeah. That's it.
It's- I mean, it's his son.
Keep going.
I think it's his son, and I think also the more we're gonna get to know Knox, the more he's gonna see. You know what? I do resent my brother, you know, for all these reasons, but this guy is way worse than my brother.
Yeah.
And so I think that's it's. At the beginning he's torn up, and then as we'll talk about as it proceeds.
Yeah, I was going to say,
What were you gonna say, Sarah?
that's such a contributing factor. It's that he's not really getting anything he wants in either situation because he's just dealing with these people that he doesn't like and that he's frustrated with, and it's a battle of who he hates more.
Yeah.
Or-
And by the end of the episode, we see him slightly, I think, starting to come to terms with Willie's
We'll get
destiny.
there.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you guys have to tell me what that was all about. I'm sorry, I don't know. So we see what's going on in Tampa. It's oranges and booze, and of course heroin. Yes. Sally's watching in. She's you know, we see how strong she is with the men. Like she's manhandling them pretty much. You know, keeping the trains running on time. And she notices Meyer and Lucky, and you know,
The other one, yeah.
what's his name?
Petricelli.
Masseria's cousin,
Yeah.
Petricelli.
Yeah.
And they're packing their heroin. She calls Nucky. Nucky's like, I owe you one. And
Careful language, by the way, but by Nucky, I was surprised to hear him say that because we know how much he resented feeling like he owed Chalky White
yes,
in the episodes before.
yes,
Just stood out to me.
you're right. He doesn't like being in that position.
He'll rectify that quickly. Go ahead.
And so this brings us to Nucky ordering Eli to, hey, get Knox, which we all cringe like, no. Get Knox and his boys and intercept this shipment. And of course we see what Knox does. He just blows someone's head off. I mean, it's just interesting the time period because Knox is already taking the law into his own hands. He's doing what he wants. He's shooting people in cold blood. It's like you would think he's losing some ground or credibility down for the future. I mean, the fact that think of the counterclaim that a Nucky would have, or somebody. The fact that he shot somebody in cold blood, right?
Well, I think for me, it's just it's just showing that everyone's a criminal, and I felt like you got that in a lot of the episode. Also with Margaret and talking about how everyone she kind of comes into contact with, whether it's her boss or AR or her or Nucky, who's still her husband, everyone's doing these illegal affairs, and we've slowly seen Knox go from this psycho, but I guess ideal person to becoming the criminals he's searching for.
And I think I know why. Here's the thing. What you just said, Kevin, makes complete sense in a rational person's mind. Here's what I know from my experience of working with law enforcement and criminals. Credibility works both ways. And the law enforcement sometimes actually feel like they need to earn credibility in the world of the criminals in a weird way so that they feel like they're on equal footing. I think it's some weird messed up logic. Knox feels like by coming off shooting people in the head, being a cold-blooded murderer, like I'm in as deep as you're in. You're gonna play on my terms. It's a weird, stupid mentality, but I've seen it, and it still goes on. And maybe not in this direct of a way. Sometimes yes, but they need to feel like the underworld respects their ability to go there as well.
Right.
Did you feel that in this, by shooting the guy, did he gain respect or did he gain fear? Because for me, it was that he went so far that Maya Lansky was like, whoa, this person's crazy. We'll do whatever you want, take as much time. It didn't come from respect. It came from fear.
But maybe it's this. It works. It feels the same.
It's the same tool.
Yeah, in the sense of, you might be crazy as hell, and maybe I don't respect you in the traditional sense, but I'm not gonna F with you. Is the takeaway.
Right. And so, in seeing him, as soon as I saw him in Eli's house later in the episode posing as an insurance man, and of course all of his subtext about insurance and life life insurance and policies and planning ahead, and you never know what could happen. He's clearly just
Taken away in an
threatening him.
instant. Yeah, totally threatening him.
And for me, this is the moment I said that now he is going to become a bigger enemy to Eli than to Nucky. And I said, this guy, he's going to go. He's going to go at some point. And the fact that I feel like Hoover is arrogant, and, we know in history, notorious, not pulling out a gun and just blowing someone's head off in the street. And not conversely trying to be friends, which I really feel like weirdly he is trying to be Eli's friend. Like, we've seen that other side of him.
Yeah, he wants to be validated. That's the term I'm looking for, guys.
Okay.
Knox wants to be validated by this underworld. That's why he blows people's head off in the middle of the street. That's why he goes to Eli's house like a crazy person and threatens him at his own damn dinner table.
But then in the car, he wants to be his friend, right?
Yeah.
A little bit, but we've seen
yeah.
that side of him where he's like, he'll say, I think, I know we can't be friends, but, or
Because he really thinks he's earned groundwork with him by the stuff he's done. That's what the twisted psyche is.
But we're going to see his downfall is because he's getting more and more obvious with his frustration and how obvious it is. For instance, at that table, we could see straight through everything he was saying, and not just as the audience, but because it was obvious in the way he was delivering it. It was obvious that it wasn't from a nice place. And then when we later see him, you can see his emotional reaction to what Hoover's
undermines
doing. Like
yep.
he's becoming, his emotions are being more apparent, which is going to
be
make
his undoing.
Yes.
Yeah.
say something, Bethany, and then I have a question.
No,
for
I
Ebony.
think that But I like that the rules and the ethics of the underworld versus, I guess. The police, the enforcers. But I guess, we do that when we go to other people's houses, you know, like we're like, hey, what are your rules? Oh, I should take off my shoes. Oh, you're an Italian family. I'm going to eat everything on my plate. Like we abide and try to respect the rules of whoever's house we're in, because we just on some fundamental level want to be accepted.
Yes,
That's what we do.
Yep. I agree with that.
All right, Eboni, you're our chief historian. So, talking about Hoover, Hoover's attention now has turned away from organized crime, which is going to give us a little reprieve, I think. It's going to give us maybe a little bit of breathing space.
Yeah.
And when I say us, the royal us of all the criminals I love on the show.
Right.
But now his attention is on
the
Marcus
3,000
Garvey.
Negroes who have ideas in their head. And
Which
they're more, I think his quote in the thing, that's even, that's a threat worth worrying about.
Yes. And now what I know of Hoover, he was obsessed with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. He thought this was bringing down our country. He was
just very concerned with this underlying
and mind
threat.
you, and I want to interrupt you. Now,
No, go ahead.
mind you, that's 40 years later. So now imagine what this kid is like at this age.
Because the thinking behind Marcus Garvey, for those that don't know, basically founder of the Back to Libya movement, which is where the term Libyans comes from, that we hear Narcisse talking about all the time. Basically a separatist movement that says we as blacks in America were brought here for one purpose, servitude. We reject that purpose, so we'll go elsewhere. We'll go back to our motherland. Feds terrified of that thinking because we're a huge part of the American economy at that point. We are the service industry by and large at that time in America. More or less. And so, this is scary to the feds. That's why Hoover's obsessed with it. And his obsession doesn't end, Kevin. You're right. It goes to Martin Luther King. It goes to Malcolm X. It goes all the way to the 70s with the Black Panthers.
Yes.
You know? So he stays obsessed with Black intellectualism and Black thought and Black movement.
Right.
Very, very
Do you
scary.
think that part of the mention of it today was because earlier you mentioned how there had been flack over Narcisse being too compared to Garvey and them not giving him recognition?
Oh, the way we were exposed to Garvey specifically tonight? Maybe. But
I think there's a tie to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm glad they did. Yeah, I'm glad that they spelled out the name because a lot of people don't know. Like, who, what? I'm glad, because there's a lot of breadth in that. And it's really important.
I mean, this is stuff I'm learning. And I was a history major in American history of all things. Yeah. And this is.
This isn't the history they teach.
I find it
it's not the history they teach.
Yeah.
No, but I find it so ironic that the conservative forces were terrified of the workworkforce leaving and moving back to Libya, whereas the conservative forces nowadays are trying to build walls.
Right.
Well, but you know why, Bethany? I'm going to tell you why. Not to go a little. The difference is the Latino community has been much, I would say, more successful in segueing out of their exclusive servitude. They take advantage of educational opportunities and entrepreneurship opportunities in a way that we as Black Americans did not for a long time. We were willing to stay put much longer.
And I even feel with that culture that they're still not as. I feel like they haven't been able to do as much as say the Europeans.
Oh yeah. There's just still
unfortunately. I want to say, directorial wise. Great transition from the headlight in Chalky's car to the projector that's showing Marcus Garvey in Patterson. Just cool. Again, this show just fires on all cylinders.
Beautifully shot episode.
We finally get to see. It's interesting. Chalky organizing his boys, and I'm like, this is a recipe for disaster. I'm like, these guys are not ready to get into this war. And there's Richard, kitchen help. And they're kind of saying, God, what's this guy doing? Taking jobs away from us. And Chalky, of course, defends him, which is why we love Chalky. I want to know how much of Chalky defending him, is he defending him because he feels bad for him? Is he defending him because he knows he's from Nucky? Or does he recall from last season how Richard basically saved everybody?
Can I check all of the above?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I think he also probably identifies with his wounds, his exterior wounds. in some sense, that visual half face, and is like I mean, Chalky is a man of the community, and he protects things that are weaker than him. So I think there's a lot in that. I love him so much.
Yeah, we all
I
do.
also think the show is making a statement this entire season about exclusion versus inclusion, and we see it with Masarea and the fact that for a long time he's got this exclusive consulate, but now we see him kind of being,
He and Narcisse, we'll get into
and
that.
Narcisse and Chalky's statement about Richard is, I believe, because they kind of made it kind of racial at first, like, here's this half-faced white man taking jobs away from us, and Chalky's the one to say, well, I believe any man worth working is worth employing, or whatever. Chalky's the representation of inclusiveness, and that's going to prevail. That's the way the show is set up. So
I love that.
I mean, but it's interesting because while he is always been a member of the community, then we see their different meetings. We see Chalky meeting in the alley where they take out the trash, and we see Narcisse in his meeting where he's in refined doors, and then this leads to who is put in the better light, not from our perspective, but from the perspective of the public, and that's why Narcisse has Mayor Bader on his side.
Yeah,
it's because
After the shooting.
and kind of right now, well, Chalky's meeting in the alley.
Right.
He's secretive. He's being stripped
Yeah,
down.
he's
We
looking
see him
like the
stripped
thug,
down
the
through
street
the
thug.
episode. Like, I don't want to reveal too much from my opposite sketches. So I need to, like,
All right.
stop.
But we see that the shooting goes down. Narcisse crawls away. I feel like some of Narcisse's guys would they more white collar criminals or just high standing members of the community, or were they also gang members?
Narcisse's crowd.
Yes, that night.
I would say they're what Narcisse's crowd is. They're all technically part of the same community, but they're searching. It was his establishment.
But it's not. Is it like the Rotary Club? Is what I'm trying to get to say. It's not like attacking Capone's gang, which is all thugs who will pull guns back at you if you don't pull them off fast enough.
I felt like it was more attacking like his students than.
Okay, that's what I want to know. So
see, I couldn't tell visually. Yeah.
He survives it, and he gets a shot off on Chalky. This leads to a couple of interesting scenes. One between Narcisse and Nucky, and one between Nucky and Chalky.
Yeah.
So very different. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Probably
Narcisse and Nucky. Let's do that one first.
So Narcisse and Nucky, it's I was just grateful to finally have someone stand up to this guy.
Yeah.
Who's rolling over everybody.
I was so happy to finally see him rattled a bit. I mean, it was the first time that Narcisse had elevated his voice past a whisper.
Oh, with
yeah.
Oh, he did. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
It was like, oh, finally, you're scared. Thank you, God.
Well, it was the first time also, Bethany, we saw Narcisse with actual blood on his hands.
Yeah.
He's been able this whole season to be this psycho killer, we know, but always visually appearing above it.
Yeah.
You're not above it. There's blood on your hands too, sir, in a real way. And you're right, that scene really showed it.
Yeah, it was so nice to have him just out of his element, a little out of control, a little messed up, and that allowed for Nucky to kind of give it to him.
And it allowed them to also, I like how they brought back this whole message of being a friend and being a partner in this episode, which was also included in pretty much the introduction of Narcisse earlier in the season, and figuring out what Nucky wants and what the difference is between work relationships and friendship relationships. And but just that use of the word friend over and over again as both an insult and a comfort, and it's used in their scene together, and then it's also in their introduction of bringing daughter Maitland into the room, in the introduction of Nucky and Chalky's conversation, and finally in the end scene where we have Narcisse and Nucky and everyone else joining. They reuse it, and I love that.
I also love how Nucky never admits really to his friendships with almost anybody, and certainly not with Chalky. He just keeps saying it's business. And Narcisse finishes the conversation saying, and in the end he's going to find out what kind of friend he has, because he's Nucky has him believing that, hey, what Chalky does that's his business, not mine. You know, he's not saying, listen, you go near Chalky, you got a problem with Chalky, you got a problem with me.
Right.
He's not saying that, and he's saying this is my club. And I love that about Nucky. And just when I think because you never know with Nucky, is he just going to be in this play and make some money, or is he going to do what's right? And I guess we'll get to that. But you know, the flip is the meeting between Nucky and Chalky. I noticed that Nucky's seat was a little higher, so you know, he's still in the power position with them.
Yeah.
But you see the way Chalky, I don't know, it just seemed like he was relieved / he warmed up when, you know, something in their exchange reminded him that Nucky's still on his side.
I was also just found it interesting that when Nucky requests that daughter Maitland leave,
Yes.
that Chalky let her. I was almost expecting like a retort, like, no, she's gonna stay, because he's kind of put her above everyone else recently, so that he was still willing to just meet with Nucky alone. I found that there was still trust there. There was still a relationship there. It was still holding him together. Who knows what's going to happen now that daughter Maitland and Chalky have kind of been pushed on their own on this lonely
I was
road.
grateful. Get her out of the room.
Yeah,
You never
I
know
wasn't
what's
that
gonna
surprised.
happen.
Yeah, I was like, girl, bye. Because have a seat, you know, go somewhere.
Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe it was one of those things where he's like, hey, I know she's good with me, but you know what? I get it. Like, you know, Nucky, like, you don't know her, and you haven't vetted her, and for your business, she may not fit in, and.
And Chalky called him to the carpet again on that, like, are you focused thing? Like, you know, what are you doing again? And,
That's right.
And then Chalky was able to answer, she's the one that put the knife in Parsley's back, and then Chalky maybe kind of was like,
No,
okay.
he did. No, he, you know, and again, great direction, great choice by Buscemi. In his face, it was like, okay, I get that.
Yep.
He's
Fine,
like, I
fine,
get that.
okay.
Which I thought was great. I thought he was going to roll his eyes or just something. He's like, okay, no, I get that.
She
passed.
killed a man for you. She's earned her keep.
Well, this brings us to Nucky meeting with Masseria, who comes in all cocky about the heroin deal, and he introduces the third partner, which is Narcisse. You know, Nucky's sitting down, the camera's on a high angle. I mean, it was clearly he was the weak one here.
I did not like this scene. I mean, I think we all were like, he was like, who's my partner? And all of us who were sitting there were like, oh, don't be Narcisse. Don't walk in. Of course it is. I was just cringing. I was very unhappy with this.
Who were you expecting? I'm just curious.
I mean, I think we were expecting
We knew.
Narcisse.
Yeah,
It was just
okay.
like, I'm just hoping it's someone we don't know. Someone very random.
Yeah.
And
I don't know why I thought it would be Lucky. I don't know why. I was shooting low. It's like
Yeah.
no big blood.
It's interesting though, you know, it's funny because you know I'm looking at so many subjects to go over, but briefly, Lucky and Meyer, who were like BFFs who broke up, they're clearly working together again. We see
Well,
them
Meyer
now.
was coerced. He was telling the truth about that part. He was
Right.
coerced back into it. He really did want to just do liquor, and that wasn't an option for
No,
him.
well, I think he said that, and then I think Nucky said, "Okay, I'm going to blow your head off if you don't tell me the truth." And then the truth was, "Okay, no, there's
And I
millions,
thought-
millions
More
and
money, too.
millions
Yeah.
and millions in heroin."
And he did wonderful this episode. Meyer Lance, he has grown so much on me this season.
Yeah.
I wanted him to have more at this conversation at the table, and I want him to. Why are you smirking at me, Bethany?
No, I'm smiling. I'm agreeing. That's my
like-
my silent agreement.
It was like, it felt like I know something you don't know. But it's true. He's grown so much as a character and as an actor that I want him to be involved as much as possible, even if he is messing up and dealing with heroin and getting himself into trouble. I'm glad he survived that situation and is sitting at the table with the big boys.
I know. Again, I can't get in trouble for spoiler with Meyer Lance. He's a famous figure in history. I mean, you know, he's not quite Capone, but he's the next tier, and he's around till the 70s.
Oh, good.
So yeah,
So he has
everyone
hope
can
for
kill
our
me
show.
now. Yeah.
What for his acting is just so wonderful on the show. He's never whiny. He's never, even when he's pleading for his life, there's still something really rational and sensible behind it. It's his performance is just really wonderful. It's so great to watch him
Well,
work.
he's an attorney's dream because his language is so precise. Like when they stop the trucks and he's like, "Oh, there's heroin on your trucks." Well, if there is, it's not. It's beyond my personal knowledge. Great answer. It's like, the perfect thing to say. Really, it's the best rhetoric on the show. I love it. I just hated to watch him get bitch smacked like that. That was hard to watch.
Yeah.
But,
Speaking of that first scene,
yeah.
I'm wondering how much he's really going to gather from that interaction, because Meyer wasn't supposed to be there.
Right.
And so being that he was there, I think is going to add even more. Not only that he had to call Masseria and was put in charge of dealing with kind of being the liaison between this meeting, but I think it's going to come into uncovering what Eli's doing, what Knox is doing.
Yeah, he is seeing that backdoor dealing. Yeah.
Exactly.
True.
He's the eyes that weren't supposed to be there.
This is true, Sarah. Very true.
Well, okay. So it's agreed upon that they're going to be partners. Wink, wink. And did any of you believe that Nucky was going to honor the deal and become a?
Not for 1 second.
Why?
And not just purely.
Why?
Maybe
Because
I'm
it
the
was a
skeptic.
good money deal. Why wouldn't he?
I mean, because he, at that point, too much distaste for Narcisse personally. And I think it actually has more to do with that, not to be a skeptic, but I am a little bit, than even the friendship with Chalky. I buy that a little bit, mostly, but I don't think Nucky would ever put friendship with anybody over what was otherwise the sound financial move. I think at this point, Narcisse has gotten out of control in Nucky's world.
Yep.
Nucky doesn't deal well with people that don't know their place. Narcisse doesn't know his place.
Right, and I agree, because Doyle, when we hear about Doyle being, oh yeah, fine, just kill him. He knows he's just a piece of crap.
Yeah.
On top of that, I'm going to have to probably either reach out to you guys or the fans for this. I believe Nucky has been approached by a heroin deal before, and I think that it was just as good of terms, just as good of money, and it was also something he didn't want to deal with. So if he's turned it down once and now you're offering it to him again with people he doesn't like, I'm not going to believe it. But and
There's a
deals
lot.
don't
There's a lot
happen
more
that
heat.
easy.
There's a lot more heat with. That's a great point too, Sarah.
That is good.
Yeah.
A deal doesn't happen. A deal like that doesn't happen so easy. Heroin is something that's going to bring much more heat onto them, and I agree that this Narcisse is someone dangerous that you don't like. With Jip, you don't want to work with him. That's really more what it's about. Go ahead, Sam.
I loved the line that they finally included why he deals heroin, though, where Narcisse
Poor
mentioned
wretched souls.
he was like, I'm going to provide to the wretched souls who are out there to get it, because that's been such a confrontation, and we've talked about it on here, just like what is going on
That's
in his
his
mind,
rationalization.
and for him to actually vocalize it, and I felt very like affirmed.
One
like,
of our fans-
yes, I knew that was what you were thinking.
And one of our fans on YouTube,
Right.
I think not the iTunes, but the YouTube page, and this is my little quick shout out, guys. Please keep your comments coming. We love them. They encourage us.
great.
They also help us a lot, both on YouTube and on iTunes. So please rate us and comment. But one of the comments that I read, and I'm sorry because I should give credit to whoever said it, but they were saying that they were picking this up about Narcisse, that he's like, no, I want to distribute it, and this is how I want to get rid of the weak people. So if the quote Libyans that are weak and want drugs, well, I don't want them part of our race.
That's
Get
a
rid of
real
them.
school of thought, y'all.
Really?
That's a real school of thought, yes. Because there's this notion that, and it really comes from slavery, that the we didn't just get enslaved. Like there's a school of thought that says that those of us who were enslaved, it is due to a weakness that allowed you to be vulnerable to that captivity. And therefore, now that we are all here and kind of inbred, and there's so much theory and stuff behind that, but that now how do we basically get a Darwinism thing where the strongest survive? And that's one way. Whether it's, and then it became in the 80s, the crack infestation and things of this nature, to rid of the weaker of the race and only the strongest survive.
Even in the
and then
80s, there are people that consciously believe that.
some people do have it, I don't know.
Wow. I mean, some of the dealers.
Yeah.
The high end
because
dealers.
that's how they justify it in their
Yes.
minds, in their worlds. We hear hip hop even sometimes talking about this. If you really listen to the lyrical content, yeah, sure, yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy. Well, we all cringe when Nucky calls the mayor for help. Because we're like, no. And sure enough, poor Chalky's at the mercy of two
And the real reason I
goons.
cringed was because Eboni pointed out, she was like, earlier after the shooting, she was like, wait, who was in the car with him?
Yeah.
Who was in the car with him?
I was like, was that Mayor and Narcisse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
so
interesting when
later we get the
Narcisse
really
pulled
big
the mayor
cringe.
toward him for a photo. Narcisse, you know, who just not a cuddly guy, but he wanted that photo op, and you know he wants to be on the side of right,
Right.
and Chalky's the thug from the other side of the tracks, and sure enough, we're all cringing because Chalky's on this ride, but man, Chalky's so sharp. Why are we? Aren't we going? Aren't we supposed to go to Philly?
Chalky's
You know?
sharp, but he's making, with the public appearance, he's making so many mistakes because he's being, I mean,
He's
I would
not
too.
ready because he's growing into his. This is new to him. I mean, come on, even to own a club like this is all coming very fast for him.
true.
He's all the growing pains that we see Nucky go through. He's going through. So yeah, he's making those mistakes.
Yeah, he wasn't bred for this. We have to remember, Narcisse was bred for this in a different way. Chalky is a self-made man in that sense.
Right.
Very different growth process. To
And he
Kevin's
still
point.
figured it out. And you know what? He survived the ride with one arm.
Well, hold on, but Narcisse is also a self-made man.
No,
Is
it's
he
in a
not?
different way. Narcisse is formally educated. Narcisse comes
But he
from...
did that. I when he talks to Dr. Maitland about it, about how they left, I can't remember where it was, St. Louis. They left somewhere with nothing, and they raised themselves up all on their own. I thought.
Possibly. I'm not saying he's not self-made, but again, it's two different worlds.
Okay.
You know, he's a formal educated. He's got a doctorate of theology. He had, and honestly, it's not enough time to talk about on the show, but there is an element of complexion and colorism, and the way
I've been like I've been holding my breath,
Don't
and I'm
hold it
like,
in, Bethany.
maybe
You can
Ebony will
say
bring
it.
it up because I
Yeah.
can't say it.
You can't say it. You can't say it, but no, it's true.
But
and
it's-
publicly,
yeah.
that's visually a distinction.
And it's that way on television too.
Yeah,
I mean,
hell
so many of the
yeah.
actresses that and just everybody you see, you're like, you're a variation of like just lighter skin tones.
Absolutely, colorism is a huge thing, and we even see it in the show. Look at Chalky's wife. Look at
Yeah,
daughter
you were
Maitland.
talking about this
Talking about this before the show.
Tell us more about, shed some more light on this. So you were talking about the lighter
yeah.
colors of
Yeah.
some of the characters.
Absolutely. For many in the community, even still, but certainly then, it in and of itself, your complexion signifies your class status, and it also equates to an expectation of education and societal place and class structure and credibility. So that's one reason, Sarah, that Narcisse, regardless, maybe he came from nothing, but he's seen as more of a community leader. He can be the face of the community in a way that Chalky probably struggles with because he's a lighter complected, educated man.
This is across the board in many
Cultures. Yeah,
Like, it's
India does it
just- yeah,
big time.
yeah.
Asia, same thing with South Asia.
Yep.
Yeah, it's big. Colorism is huge.
I, of course, was so happy that Chalky survives this, and I feel as though Chalky survives at least this season.
Yeah.
I was nervous because, you know, again, we got some interesting predictions from some of our fans, talking about the daughter's wedding, which we thought was going to be the big blow up, and now we find out that there is not going to be a wedding. The doctor's son-in-law to be, the family, you know, that was again a more highly educated, more affluent, more cultured. They poo-pooed this wedding. The daughter, we know, doesn't care
Well,
because she didn't want to be in this marriage anyway. You know, Chalky did, but.
I love what they've done with that plotline.
I do
Those
too.
par-
I was just
yeah.
going to say that I know our fans were predicting this big wedding massacre, and then some were predicting that Chalky would perish. I think by Chalky dodging this bullet, no pun intended, I think we're good with him for at least this season. No?
I mean, I don't know how good we are with Chalky. This is what I find interesting, is that we have the two father-daughter relationships going on. We have Narcisse and Dr. Maitland, and we have Chalky and his daughter, who
Maybelle.
There we go, Maybelle. And this episode and last episode, you really got the line drawn in between their relationships. Both of their relationships broke. And now they've kind of been, in this, we get a hint that they might be even like kind of switching.
A trade.
There is a trade going on, and that's dangerous. Like, Dr. Maitland has been what has injured Narcisse the most, and Chalky's only really been physically injured. We haven't really seen him be directly emotionally affected. And if Narcisse, he's kind of getting his claws in his daughter and what he can do with his power of words. And she's an educated girl. She does desire.
And she wants more.
Yes, and
She's
she has
not
these big
satisfied
dreams.
being like a lot of the females on the show. She's really smart and she has ambition. And we were talking about, even when she looked up at the window, the office window, you guys took it as ambition. I mean, yes, on the nose it was, hey, his dad up there, but the subtext was, I'm looking up, that's where I want to be.
And there was a level of, she almost did have a glimmer of happiness before going up there, and a place when she did get up there to rest. It was almost like she was settling in at home. And then, of course, the lights flicker on, and that's where we get the glimpse of Narcisse, and then it's her whole world is shaken again. But
Well, Narcisse, do you think at all he'll be attracted to her, or is she just simply a pawn that he'll destroy to get to Chalky? Or will he take her like he took daughter Maitland and kind of own her soul and make her fall in love with him, be obsessed with him, that kind of thing, and as the daughter Maitland replacement?
Could be maybe that's something along those lines.
I think it's going to be a mixture.
Yeah.
I think that I think he went down this road, thought he had this perfect product, and then something went wrong. So you go back and you try to do the same thing again, but then you try and alter and add in
2.0.
one other element to try and change it up. And his arrangement with daughter Maitland was, okay, you can lie with any man in bed, but
Your heart is
your
mine.
heart is mine. And that worked for a long time, but it didn't work at the very end. So he's going to go back, and I think that there could be some sexual tension or moves because that's what he has to change. The education part worked. That creating this beautiful image worked.
Right.
But he couldn't control her sexuality, which made it fail. So that's what he has to play with. I hope he doesn't, because that's just going to be horrible for Chalky and everyone. But
He's gonna,
logically,
and somebody has to get
that's I think
served
where
up.
his plan's going to be.
I think Maitland's gonna go soon.
I
She
mean,
just has to.
we
And
only
not-
had like 5 measures of singing this episode instead of the normal like 30. So if they cut
Yeah.
down constantly.
I will say though, her singing, we gotta be mindful of her song choice this week. Not your standard jazz, sultry blues. It was a Negro spiritual,
Traditional, yeah.
which has again ancestry in slavery, and it's something that slaves would use to get through these incredibly trying times, and certainly significant there.
This isn't like a historical or probably accurate interpretation of that song because I don't really know it, but
Are you going to sing it for us right now?
Please, can you please give us your
No.
interpretation?
Sorry, any singing in your background? I know you're an actress too, but you sing.
yeah, I was a trained singer. Sorry,
I
so
knew that.
that's
cool.
not funny. Anyway, but for me, it tied into 2 things because one, we got the spiritual element from it. It also it reminded me a lot of like going to the next line. I think is like going to the river.
Yeah.
And we've gotten so much this episode about liquids, about waters, about these
That
the
coffee
ebb and
stain on the
flow
table.
and all this, and living in a swamp and living near a swamp and this murk and the cleanse that water provides, but also how in this the liquid becomes dirty and muddled and foggy. And also on top of that the last line, I think at the end of the credits, was the silver slippers. And obviously that's relation in fairy tales also to like Cinderella and the
Being
Cinderella
saved
story.
and,
And being picked up, and I just thought it was very interesting.
cute.
I approved of this song choice.
I did too. I did too.
Can we talk about the 3-way between Nucky, Eli, and Willie?
The 3-way standoff or communion, depending how you look at it.
Well, I'm.
Can we first give Willie a round of applause for like doing his job really
he
well
Did. He did.
The
He-
ground man.
and trying to save the day?
and him saying, what are you, Eli, what are you doing here? And Nucky saying, yeah, I put him there to watch Bader because I knew this was going to happen, and now I just saved us and the family. And then Eli says, Pop, this is what we do.
Yep.
What didn't stun me, but I didn't know how to take Eli's reaction. So tell me, what was that reaction at the end?
I thought he was coming to terms with it. As much as he's fought it so much all season and before, and he wanted him to be this Temple graduate boy and take a higher road than he or Nucky ever took, I think he's just coming to terms with it. He's just gonna go in the family business.
Bethany?
It was one of my favorite moments of the night because he just, in my mind, his thoughts were, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess it is. It
like,
was
and
so simple.
And
It
you
was
want to
just,
be here, so now I have to protect you in this situation.
like, you know what? I can't. Yeah, it was just a surrender. Like, okay, all right. So now it's the three of us.
And now they got to team up on Knox.
I was gonna say, do you guys
so
think this is gonna
That's
affect?
what I was saying.
Yeah.
Did Knox just go too many steps too far, where he's like, you know what? Okay, now my son's in. I'm not going to be able to get him out anyway. And this other guy is such a mofo that I think we got to put the band back together,
Yep.
and we have to go to Team Thompson, and take this guy out.
Exactly.
agree.
That was it. It was, there was an edge of relief in there. I felt. Did anybody feel that? Like just a little bit?
I would-
I
get
think
it.
it's
You
all
guys
that,
are
like,
smarter than
I'm
me, so I didn't know
hoping
what to
so
feel.
much
Stop it.
for like them to conquer Knox that I feel like I might be imposing these thoughts on this, that this is a peaceful interaction, and like even when we're seeing the little clips of next week, I'm like, well, I could twist that so that it fits that they're ganging up on him and Eli's no longer a pawn. Yeah, it works.
I think so, and I think I agree with you, Bethany. I think relief in the sense of now Eli understands you can't save Willie from his destiny.
Yep.
And so the pressure's a little bit off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to work well for all of our hopes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're 56 minutes in, you guys.
I know.
It's very late. It's
It's so
probably past
late.
midnight now. Do we have news and gossip?
No.
All right, so let's just go to catches of the week.
Yes, Mike August. So these are from last week's episodes, guys, which was marriage and hunting. Marriage and hunting. I'll just talk about a few. So he gave a kudos to the Boardwalk team for, really, and for his meshing history and fiction, specifically with O'Banion's murder. They went so far as historically O'Banion does go to a handshake that is gripped too far and he's shot by 3 killers. Like that's all, those little details were pulled from history. And then he talks about how the fact that they then put Mueller Van Alden in the situation and allow history to support a character growth, which is, so he just gave a nod to them. He did talk about how historically there is a 5-year mob war, which leads to the Valentine's Day massacre. I'm not trying to spoil anything. Those are pretty known historical things. But if you want to know spoilers, you can look up some names. There might be some new characters. There might be some new events. Who knows? But it's out there if you guys want to find it. Mike August has found it, so he knows. Furthermore, in last week's episode, Mueller mentions that he went to see a Buster Keaton movie, and the title was The Navigator. It's an interesting tie-in because we've had previous episodes titled The North Star and the Old Ship of Zion. So just the constant.
We're also getting
connections
more movie
between-
references. Doyle was talking
Yep.
tonight about The Thief of Baghdad. Margaret's boss wants to buy the same car that Rudolph Valentino, I'm
Yes.
sure he's relating to, probably the first movie star or one of them. But interesting.
Very interesting. And then on top of that inter-episode connection, also talking about Jillian, again mentioning ice cream to get herself out. We're talking about where she's on the boardwalk. She's just kind of opened up, vulnerable, and then she closes down again by asking for an ice cream. Of course, this is a tie-in to the reference of the melting sundae, where he got the glimpse of the fact that she's not all there or all right. Also, there was sound effects of a church bell when Mueller was being attacked. Just an interesting reflection, obviously, since he's had such a complicated relationship, I would say, with religion and with God. So to put that in there, and it's great to be in the details. Finally, he talked about you, Keven, about how you always are talking about Chalky's suits. But in last week's episode, he referenced that we're seeing a lot of him wearing white, and it was specifically he was talking about his white hat, and I thought that was very interesting because then in this episode, I'm sure he'll bring it up, we got to see Chalky really stripped down. I mean, he was wearing his white undershirt and at points wearing
Yeah.
a part of that flag, and it was white, and it was red, white, and blue. And the suit we've talked about so much this season being a representation of their power, of their effectiveness in the community.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's been so stripped down, I think is going to show that he has to be removed. We kind of saw a glimpse of him being on a porch or in some other place. And it's because
Unless you build him down to break him down and build
To
him
build
up.
them back up.
which means if he comes back, he has to have the really,
2.0.
really nice suit.
Well, I think so, and I also think that where Narcisse and Masseria are representing, and Hoover are representing the worst of our country. Okay, like this country was supposed to be built on melting pot, and so when you have these people who are isolationists, who are exclusionary, him wearing the flag and
In the war room,
right.
while they're talking about war.
to me says like this is what America is supposed to be, opportunity, working together. And of course it's going to be bloody and it's going to be torn because that's their version of it. They're gangsters.
Right.
And how they use that on levels. They use it on the level of who Chalky is, what's going on, and also on the how Nucky and Chalky are dealing with the situation. Because as they're in that room, as he's wrapped in a flag, they're talking about Nucky not wanting to go to war but having to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
They use everything on so many levels. Finally, Dr. Narcisse sorry guys, lost in my handwriting. The title of the episode was Marriage and Hunting. It was obviously shown on the sign right before Richard gets married, but also it was mentioned and it's seen throughout the entire episode of who's married who's hunting who, but specifically Narcisse had a ceremonial hunting spear. So not only in language but also in props.
Cool.
Just good.
And that
Good
spear
reference.
goes to so much natives. I mean, think about
Yes.
how many levels. It's funny with this show and Beth, I know you're writing screenplays. Sarah, you've been trained, USC theater program, and I and as a filmmaker, this is going to be one hell of a tough show to write. I mean, think of all the details and the levels, and I think. I've been really bogged down, as you guys know. I'm shooting a reality show, and I've got this book due. And so I apologize to our fans for not. I have some friends who work on Boardwalk. In fact, I know some of the producers, and I haven't tapped into it. But I want to know more about the process. I mean, there have got to be many. I have to think there have to be many, many minds involved in this. The production design, the direction, the cinematography, the writing. Right?
And people who really care, because no scene kind of goes.
There's no fluff scenes. Yeah. No.
Everything has so much
meaning.
I'm curious. They must have more than one art director, right? Because
again, these are the questions that have to be answered.
How do you do the art direction
and
for just one of these?
And although I'm like insane for Breaking Bad and Cranston and just that show just revolutionized to me. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it. The reason that I will say this may deserve more credit is because just a little more is because of the amount of characters in this show that they're making work and the amount of symbolism and elements and just
layers,
and I don't
layers
think
and layers
right
and
and we're not
layers.
reaching because some of our fans accuse us that we're reaching, that we're like playing like little film students who are digging deeper, but there's a lot of subtext
that was
here.
a fun one.
Right? Yeah, that was a fun one.
That was sweet.
Yeah, but you agree, right?
I do. I was gonna say I'm not the film connoisseur that you guys are in that way, but no, there's a lot here, and just even from a place of literary reference as well. So the writing, I mean, it speaks the truth of it.
I think I think that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Like they go so far as to add in historical elements. Those take a lot of research.
Yeah.
That just proves that all these other little things they're thinking about too. Like if they're gonna go so far and do all this research, they're going that far on every level.
Maitland could have sang any song tonight. She sang that particular song for a specific reason because they know where she's going next week too.
And they start that song in a certain place and they end that song.
And,
in a
and
certain
think of her song choices from
Throughout.
when we met her to now.
Yeah.
Now we're a cappella. We're we're
she's stripped
unplugged.
down. Yeah.
So
It would have been very out of place if she was singing "Happy Birthday" in that car.
true that.
or anything glamorous at all.
And by the way, as the
Just
as the credits
joking.
roll, she's again singing, and I said, Anna, this is just I don't know. I'm like, who the hell is she sleeping with? How many songs?
No.
Right.
I'm rewinding. You
Yeah,
didn't say
okay,
that.
take that
Black
out.
woman
Sorry.
does something well. Kevin's
I mean,
mad about. No, I'm just
But
kidding. Go
well,
ahead.
on this show, I've never seen this, guys. I've never seen this show. It just seems sometimes it seems gratuitous.
She's doing a lot, but I mean, I think it's because we're gonna lose her too. That's my prediction. I think she's going soon, and I think it's how
Are
they
we in
kind of
prediction
like Eddie.
sections?
I'm sorry.
No,
Okay,
I'm
but
not.
if you
calling
think
me
of,
out.
but if you think of Paz Huerta's character, she
Yeah.
sang that one song that was so quirky and so peculiar and interesting, and made that scene so captivating. But we didn't have 20 songs from her. It was just that one. Why are you looking at me like that,
Because
Bethany?
I don't know if Paz can sing.
But you remember the
I do. I
Okay,
absolutely
that's-
do. But I
okay,
don't. I don't
well-
know if she's more of
Performer?
like
more
like
vampy?
performance art. She's an extra. What is the word I'm looking for? It's like what Madonna does. An extra. Help me out here. Somebody, anybody? I'll come up with it.
Exhibitionist? I
Yes,
don't
thank
know.
you. An
exhibitionist.
She's an
Oh.
exhibitionist. That's really
Okay.
what Paz is.
I will
isn't
tell
she?
you this much: the actress that plays daughter Maitland, her name escapes me
Great
in a
actress,
second.
by the way,
Yeah,
and beautiful voice.
And she's a singer. I was gonna
I
say
was
that's
gonna
her
say.
background. She's from
Okay.
Philadelphia. She's a
makes sense.
singer first
they
and
found her,
foremost,
and they were like,
found
"Can
her
you
from
act?"
that, and then they turned her into this role. Yeah, so that probably has something
Again,
to do with that.
this is a reach, but I remember when Maria did One Tree Hill. Obviously, a very different show, but a lot of the kids on that show sang,
Okay.
and they would have them sing on the show, and they had record deals. They created like a little label. So they would sing, and then they would kind of have. So that's what there's so much involved here that I'm saying, what are the politics? Why is she singing so much?
Because that's her
Unless
thing.
somebody has
Because
a,
they found her
Yeah.
as a singer, and she was like, they were like, "Can you act?" And she was like,
anyway.
Maybe, but I can sing. If
I
you
can
let
live
me
with it.
sing,
Maybe
I'll act
maybe
for
she
you."
has a good agent and they wrote it in.
I don't know. Also,
I don't
again,
know,
let me see if I can
contract.
find out. White Horse Pike name is the title of the episode. Lastly, and you were saying that
It's the I believe the road that Chalky was on when they were
In Jersey.
in Jersey when they're driving away with the two policemen. He's like, "Hey, you missed the exit." And he's like, "No." Then they're like, "No, we're cool. We're not going that way."
In my mind, it's like a giant fairy tale. I mean, you've got the White Horse Pike, which is a road. Chalky's the knight in shining armor. She's got her silver slippers, and she's Cinderella, and they're off going into the sunset with their true love.
smart broad.
I like it.
That's
I like
smart.
it.
It is
Okay.
kind of fairy tale.
All right, let's do predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
There we go. Prediction time?
Yes.
Ooh.
Well, I already said I think we're losing daughter Maitland. If not next episode, certainly in the finale. She's gone.
Yeah, I'm jumping on that one.
I'm really, really excited to see whoever owns this house.
Oh, first of all, the actor Lou Gossett Jr.
Amazing balls.
Amazing.
Is this Chalky's dad?
No, I don't think it's Chalky's dad. It could be. I don't think so though.
Whoever this is, I don't know. That
Maybe a
got-
mentor or somebody.
Something like that.
I
don't
love
think
it.
you guys. If you guys are not familiar with this man, like he is actually.
Quite familiar. In fact, you know what?
Well, I know you are familiar.
I know it,
Kevin.
and I know
Yeah.
his son,
Oh yeah.
Sati. So you know what? I'm actually gonna see if I can get him on. Yeah,
That'd be amazing. Yeah, I mean, this is like Academy Award winning. Winning and nominated, and he was in Roots, you guys. So
No, he's amazing. He's
the
just
breadth of
semi-retired. He
his
owns a football
experience.
team
Yeah.
now. He's a businessman.
I didn't even know he was still. I mean, oh my
Well,
God, I
Lou
can't wait.
Gossett
He
also
made me so
narrated the 12 Years a Slave Audible book.
There you go. Yeah, so this is deeper
Best.
for him. So the life he's gonna give whatever character
Exactly.
he's portraying is gonna be outstanding.
And we're seeing more of the stripping away of Chalky, because now we're going from these beautiful houses to this
Right.
rotted out old beast of a place. That's, who knows what it was in history. We'll find out. I'm excited for that.
Man,
Jillian and Roy. By the way, some great YouTube comments on that, thinking that Roy
is still married.
deeper. That
Okay.
Roy is what he's involved in is
that
it's
he knows so the young man she killed. Did you read those,
yes.
Kevin? Yeah.
Some people think it's that. Other people think that somehow it's Knox. That he's indirectly working for that. Because why would he get her healthy if it was simply about revenge? Kill the bitch.
Yeah,
No,
he needs to know
seriously.
more.
Yeah.
There's-
But he's getting her
he needs
strong. He's
something
getting
from
her
her.
healthy.
Yeah.
So we'll find out more next week. And we see her and Richard have a confrontation,
Good.
which Richard's not backing out from that. Obviously,
And
Nucky and Eli.
Yep. And I want to know what's going to happen with Narcisse and little Mayville.
Okay, so I know
definitely gonna be
we're rolling
injured.
out, we're rolling out.
Sorry.
But one last question to the table.
Okay.
Do we see now? There's 2 episodes left to tie up many loose ends.
Yeah.
Does this end in the next 2 episodes? Do we have any sense of victory where we vanquish a couple of foes, or do we get knocked down more pegs? And is it for next season? You know, does Narcisse, Masseria, and Knox come out the big winners after these next 2 episodes?
I'm gonna take number 2 on that one because they've in the last few seasons they've always killed somebody big off and have left us devastated. I think they're gonna leave us with a cliffhanger this time.
I don't like cliffhangers.
I don't know.
Thinking relationship resolutions, but faux open ends. So what I say by that is I think that we're going to see some tighter bonds between Chalky and daughter Maitland if she sticks around. I think we're going to see Margaret and Nucky at least run into each other or somehow, and then I think we're still going to have these villains who are now going to not only be there but imposing on these loving relationships or whatever they are.
I think daughter Maitland gets knocked off this season. I think Narcisse, Masseria, that all goes on into next season, and Chalky will be changed fundamentally because of daughter Maitland's death. And it's going to be completely different next season.
Wow. All right. Where do we find you, Eboni?
Oh, on Twitter at Eboni_K or EboniKWilliams.com.
Love that.
And you
Definitely.
can find me at Bethany with an IE on Twitter, but Instagram is more of my medium, so you can find me there at Bethany.
Yeah, Eboni, you need Instagram.
I have Instagram, but I'm a talker. I mean, not much to look at, so.
Yeah, okay.
I stick to
What
the
else?
words.
Everyone who's just listening to this recorded, go watch the video and then laugh.
Just
Google
laugh.
And
Eboni K.
unfortunately,
Williams.
Sarah Stretton, you can just write her at AfterBuzz if you want.
You can send me like
You can
snail
send her
mail.
some snail mail. I was going to
Thank
say, you
you.
put it in
Snail
horse
mail.
and pony mail.
I know how to do
All right.
calligraphy. That's my
You can
thing.
write us at the AfterBuzz offices. We have the address, care of Sara Stretton, because yes, Sarah is,
I can sew too.
and she can sew.
This is my. You guys
like
can do
that.
your technology. I'll do my
Pony
my
Express.
crafts.
At Undergaro for me, and I don't know, I did Instagram because I'm at a lot of cool Hollywood events,
Yeah, you are.
and I'm always creeping and hiding in the background. Why not take some pictures and send them out to everybody?
Yeah. You look cute on Maria's Instagram, too.
Which one was that?
The one with the dog, and the dog's like drink.
now
You
the-
guys have the dog has the beer in her paw.
Oh, Winnie.
Yeah, it's so
Oh,
cute.
Anyway, all right, you guys,
Yeah.
we love you, and 2 more episodes. We'll see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Is that possible?
Buzz you later at Sara
Buzz you
Stretton.
Buzz you later.
See you later. Sorry.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.